like wait for her to come over to him, but he just, because she's the big fluffy cat, so he wants pets. She's like,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to all of you who are here in the sanctuary, and all of you who are out there in YouTube land, and all of you who are watching this ages and ages hence on YouTube. We're glad you're with us. You're going to have fun this morning. I think I can promise you that. I'm Fran Manley. I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry team, and I am this morning's Worship Associate. Our preacher this morning is the Reverend Craig Schwalenberg, and I will tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. We are blessed to be here together, and we acknowledge that the land upon which our church stands rests on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people, the original nations of this land, who continue to call for justice and self-determination. Masks and vaccinations. As you know, masks are not now optional, but we still encourage everyone to have all eligible vaccinations and boosters, and we ask that you wear a mask if you're not fully vaccinated, if you have a health condition or any other reason why you feel safer with a mask, or if you have been exposed to COVID recently. If you look in the insert in your order of service, there are a number of terrific auction items still up for grabs. See your insert here. They were also listed in the e-blast, and jump on them while you can. Don't miss them. There's also lots of other stuff in this insert and in your e-blast, things that you can do, ways that you can help, interesting things going on. So take it home and read it carefully after your nap this afternoon. And now, our preacher this morning is the Reverend Craig Schwalenberg, an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister raised in the Midwest, now living in Oneonta. It's especially appropriate to have Craig with us this month when our theme is creativity. After more than 15 years serving as a parish minister and interim minister, Craig is now creating a brand new kind of ministry known as Your Game Minister. He is now Your Game Minister, devoted to sharing the fun and wisdom where spirituality and play cross paths. Craig has 2 dogs, Harmony and Spirit. Spirit, who is right up here with us this morning, is a trained therapy dog and often joins Craig in the pulpit and for workshops and games. And Spirit will be happy to say hi to you after the service if you are so inclined. Craig describes himself as an unabashed geek for superheroes, sci-fi, fantasy, and games. His ministry is one of connections, storytelling, hospitality, and games. I am delighted to welcome Craig to our pulpit this morning. Craig.
Thank you for allowing me to be your guest today. It's an honor and a privilege and a great joy. The last time I was here, I wasn't actually in your sanctuary, but I was here as your district settlement representative when I helped your search committee conduct the search for a new minister. I felt pretty good about that work then, and I feel even better about it now, considering how that search turned out. It is my practice when I am the guest minister to bring greetings in a way taught to me by my colleague, the Reverend Bob Janis. The first time he was a guest in the church I served, he greeted the congregation and then shared with them some kind words about their minister. And so I'm going to do the same thing for you now. I was absolutely thrilled when I heard you voted to call Reverend Joan Montagnes as your new minister. I had heard good things about her then, and when she arrived and joined our cluster, I got to meet her in person. It was a little bit of a shock because she looks like a dead ringer from my aunt in Minnesota, the evangelical one who compared being a UU minister to being an axe murderer. But to be fair, I had at the time not done either one, so I didn't know if there were any links. But anyway, Joan and I overcame that, and she has been fabulous as a colleague. And of course, my new iPad that I'm using has now stopped working, so now I have to switch. There we go. I got to meet her in person, and Joan is much respected and admired by her colleagues. She's smart and generous and an avid truth teller. She does not suffer fools gladly, and often the time I play the part of a fool, but I get along just fine with her. She has a great sense of humor and a great laugh, and we became quickly more than just colleagues. When I had a rough time in my ministry some years ago, Reverend Joan was one of the ministers that called me numerous times to let me know I wasn't alone. In case you didn't already know it, your minister has a big heart filled with love and compassion. I would be remiss in bringing these greetings if I didn't also mention another colleague and friend that serves this congregation, the Reverend Frances Manley, who she is quick to remind me is not your minister. But she has been a beacon of joy to me and many other colleagues in the chapter for many years. She holds much of our institutional memory, which she shares with grace and kindness, even if it's the 60th time she's had to remind us that we've done this before. She shares her gifts of music and stories and laughter generously and humbly, and she has been my host this weekend. She and Ken have put Spirit and I up, and I feel grateful and blessed by her hospitality. She's also a strong supporter of my new ministry and has been with me every step as I planned my visit here. So, with a minister like Reverend Joan co-ministering with you, and Fran, Reverend Fran, acting as a lay leader in your congregation, I can't help but feel you are going to transform the world for the better. So, thank you for letting me be here. Our call to worship this morning is adapted from words written by Beth Merrill Neal on her blog, Hold Fast to What is Good, and is adapted and used with her permission. We are called to joy, taking our turns with wild abandon. Some of the love that buoys us, sure of the laughter that awaits. We are called to play with the sacred, with each other, with creation, abandoning the grip of control, releasing solemnity, trusting in what will be, basking in the warmth of the divine, in love and in laughter. So may it be.
I invite you now to rise in body or spirit as we say together our words for lighting our chalice. We gather in loving community, inspiring one another to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world. And now I invite you to remain standing and turn in your gray hymnals to number 16. 'Tis a gift to be simple. How many times are we going to sing this, Jesse? Just once? Okay. Sometimes we do it more than once. Whatever. We'll sing it once.
This is directed to those of you watching online. I'm about to tell a story for all ages that does not have a complete title yet. The title is The Blank That Blank. We're going to tell the story together here in the sanctuary. I can't do that with you online, so you online are going to tell us what the title is. By the time I'm done with the introduction, I hope one of you will have responded, and John and Josh in the back will then shout it out to me and all of us, and then we can know what we're actually talking about. So it is a different kind of story today. It's a story that's never been told before, and likely will never be told again, because we're going to tell the story together. Now, my more theologically minded colleagues would call it a process theology story. Don't worry, we'll get back to that. The actors in the room, do we have any actors in the room? No? Oh, there's a few. They might call it an improv story. If you're a gamer, you might call it a modified Mad Lib. Any of you do Mad Libs when you were kids? Yep, okay, I see some nods. So, all of you, actors, theologians, gamers, you would all be right. That's exactly what this is. I could just ask you to shout out your suggestions, but that would favor the quick thinkers, the extroverts, and the loudmouths. And one of the things that my game ministry is all about is trying to make sure that we're always trying to get the widest audience, the widest umbrella for who can play the game. So instead, being your game minister, I'm going to use this plush 20-sided die. I know it looks like a plush ball, but it's got 20 sides, so it's a 20-sided die. When we get to the part in the story where we're stuck, we're going to toss the die to someone, or hand it to someone, or roll it to someone, or get up and go give it to someone, whatever you want to do, and then that someone is going to tell us the next part of the story, either by word or by sentence. And we'll see what story we co-create. Is everybody ready? Does everybody understand how this is going to work? Okay. John, do we have a title? Josh? The Dragon That Snores. Tell my wife that we'll talk about that later. I have a sneaky suspicion that's where that came from. All right, the story is The Dragon That Snores. Once upon a time, or so I've heard, there was a big, well, maybe it wasn't a big dragon. Maybe it was a medium dragon. And I don't remember what color the dragon was.
The dragon was purple.
It was a purple dragon. And what size was the purple dragon? A small purple dragon. Once upon a time, so I've heard, there was a small purple dragon, and it snored. We know it snored because
people politely try to,
got it.
register their complaint.
Got it. We know the dragon snored because people heard it snoring and then gingerly, politely would tell the dragon, you know you snore, right? And the dragon was very embarrassed by this. So embarrassed that the purple dragon sometimes would turn beet red, which would make it even more purple. And then it would go, oh, I don't think so. And the people were, what did the people do then?
The people will comment about how the dragon would snore like curtains go in and out, almost like a cartoon.
Got it. All right. So the people said to the dragon, well, we know you snore because when you're snoring, the curtains blow in and blow out, blow in and blow out, and everybody can hear it. And the dragon was mortified again and turned this time a bright pink to go with the purple, and said, "What am I going to do? How can you help me stop snoring?"
I'll take your hand and bring you to the University of Buffalo's sleep app.
A very kind and wise person in the town came up and said, "Take my hand, gently, please, those claws are sharp, and I will take you to the University of Buffalo's sleep study for an apnea study." And the dragon said, but I've just switched jobs, and I no longer have health insurance because we live in a place that doesn't have universal health care, and they won't pay for my sleep apnea study. What will I do? Apply for Medicaid. And the dragon And it was the person said, the very wise person said, you will apply for Medicaid. And they went to the Medicaid office, the dragon, small, purple dragon, and the wise person from the village, and what was it? Oh, okay, got it. All right. So the person behind the desk, a very a bureaucratic person, said, sorry, no dragons. You don't qualify. Spirit, come here. Come on. You're not part of the story. Come on up here. Come on. Come on. Get up here. Thank you. Anyway, so they went to the CVS and they bought those little strips. And they put it on the dragon. And that night, the dragon went to sleep and...
It didn't work.
Oh, you guys just don't want my story to end. I understand this. Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the end of the story. So I'm going to have to come to close. They put the strips on the dragon. They didn't work because when the dragon breathed out, flames would come out and the strips burned up and it didn't work. So the dragon decided the only thing they could do was, this is our finale. That is perfectly allowed. What you don't see is he got the ball and he passed it to somebody else. That is allowed.
And the town said that's okay, we'll buy earplugs.
Perfect. Love it. My wife is not going to like the ending of your story, but I love it. The town said, it's okay, we like having a dragon here, we'll all buy earplugs. And they lived happily ever after. Thank you for helping us co-write our story.
If I forget to take his mask off, you have to remind me. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. Over the centuries, people have suffered and died that we might have the privilege of gathering here and making up a story this morning. This wonderful church, which is supported by our voluntary generosity. Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our church walls. This month, our Share the Plate partner is the Tool Library. The Tool Library believes that cost should not be a barrier to fixing up your home, growing your own food, and improving your community. Their mission is to share the tools people need to create the change they want. Members can borrow from an inventory of over 4,000 tools for as little as $20 a year. They also host workshops to share knowledge and build skills. You can make your offering on PayPal by going to our website and clicking on the blue Donate button, or you can write a check payable to UUCB and drop it in the offering plate or mail it to the church. If yours is a gift to the Share the Plate ministry, please write SHARE on the memo line of your check or check SHARE on the PayPal screen. If yours is a gift to our congregational operating budget, please write or check Pledge 2022. You can also arrange a regular automatic deposit with your bank, and of course, you can also put cash in the offering plate. Thank you for your generosity.
It's a kind of magic. It's a kind of magic. A kind of magic. One dream, one soul, one prize. It's a kind of magic. Can be only one. This rage that lasts 1,000 years will soon be done. This flame that burns inside of me, I'm hearing secret harmony. It's a kind of magic. A bell that rings inside your mind is challenging the laws of time. It's a kind of magic. It's a kind of magic. This rage that lasts 1,000 years will soon be done. Is it magic? Yeah, there can be only one. This rage that lasts 1,000 years will soon be Magic, 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 magic.
Just shut it all off and then turn it on again.
I don't know what the practice is in your congregation, but can we hear it for the musicians? Y'all really know how to make a visiting minister feel welcome, because they asked, is there any songs or music that would fit? And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's Queen. I don't think you're going to be able to do it, but one of my favorites is It's a Kind of Magic. And they were like, got it. Yeah. Our reading today is a poem by Jenny Justice entitled Remember to Play. We forget what it is like to laugh, to play. We forget what it is like to simply exist in moments of joy. The one thing that separates adults from kids is not age, not time, not wisdom, not responsibility, bills, work, or things we label as adult that are just bad habits dressed up as something we've earned the right to do. Drink, gamble, use people, use each other, be snide, be snarky, suppress feelings. No. What makes an adult is the inability to play without fear, restraint, to play without feeling foolish. We forget. And we mourn a bit, sure, because of bills, because of work, because we confuse things like bars and drinking or parties or thrills for play, when these things are not play. Play is an endeavor of the Spirit, Playfulness is an attitude of pure glee. Playing is curiosity and action, discovery, pretending. Playing is approaching each moment as new, full of beautiful possibility, of imagination. Play is grace and laughter, even when falling or crawling. Play is using our bodies, hearts, minds, and spirits to explore the world around us with kindness and awe. We forget this. We forget this. We have to remember, we have to make time for all of us, children, adults, all genders. We have to remember to play. Remember.
Let us join our hearts and minds now in a few moments of prayer, meditation, and reflection. Spirit of life and love, we are a serious people with wide-ranging concerns for our world, our community, and yes, for ourselves as well. Our world is a serious place with serious problems. But this day, if only for this day, may we remember the wisdom traditions that teach us that the whole world, the whole universe is your playground, that it was all created in a spirit of play. May we be open this day to all the signs of holy play in the world around us, the play of sunlight on water and the sound of rippling streams, the dance of flowers in the breeze, the giggles and wiggles of small children and puppies and kittens, all the way up to the stately dance of planets and galaxies. May we be open to the playful spirit within each of us, so that even if just for today, even if just for this hour, we may move more lightly through the world. This morning, we especially hold in our hearts author Salman Rushdie, who was very seriously injured in a knife attack at Chautauqua Institute on Friday, ironically, just as he was about to give a presentation on America as a safe place for endangered writers. The latest news I heard is that he's off the respirator and able to talk again, but his injuries are very serious. And now, let us fill this sanctuary with the names of friends and loved ones suffering in sorrow and celebrating in joy. Each name a breath, each breath a prayer.
Steve, Will,
The breath of nature is upon us, the spirit of life is within us, and the community of love is among us. So be it, blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.
Amen.
grow anything in the garden of your mind?
In the garden of your mind.
You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind.
In the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think, make believe, have to think,
And they'll grow. Agape, that's one way that you say love. There are so many ways of expressing love in this world. Imagine every person that you see is somewhat different from every other person in the world. Some can do something, some can do others. Did you ever think of the many things you've learned to do? Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind?
in the garden of your mind.
You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind.
In the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things, make believe, all you have to do is think.
And they'll grow. Did you feel like going like that? Let's give the fish some food.
Listen to feel thee. I didn't order any whistle.
That's what they call a slide whistle. Did you feel like going like that? Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind?
In the garden of your mind.
You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind.
In the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you do is think. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think.
And they'll grow.
Thank you again. That's another request from me. If you do a search on YouTube for Fred Rogers' Garden of Your Mind, you'll see what they so expertly reproduced here. How many of you enjoyed our storytelling game? How many of you wish it had ended differently? Oh, they liked the ending. Okay, all right. Now, some of you might have found it a bit nerve-wracking. Oh, don't throw the ball at me. Don't throw the ball at me. And some of you might have even thought it was a bit foolish. And that's okay. Improv is not for everyone. And telling a story that way is risky and unconventional, which is the very definition of the fool's way. The Fool is another one of my spiritual inspirations, but that's a whole other service. And if you invite me back for that one, I will wear the jester hat that time, friend. Let's get back to the topic of today, games and make-believe. How many of you have watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and remember the trolley taking us to the land of make-believe? Ding, ding. Excellent. If you're younger, perhaps you remember Miss Frizzle and the Magic School Bus. A few? Okay, all right. How many of you in this crowd have played Dungeons and Dragons? Okay, there's a few of you. All right, more than I expected. Any other role-playing games? Play another role-playing game of some sort? No? Okay, all right, good, good. How many of you played games of make-believe when you were a kid? There are some who didn't play games of make-believe when they were kids. Okay. How many of you play them as adults? Are you sure? if you don't play games of make-believe, I would ask yourself, why not? And why did you stop? Our imagination is a wonderful gift. As adults, we don't often talk about imagination, or if we do, we talk about it with a different word. We use the word creativity. Do you ever notice the difference in connotations between those two words? She's got a very active imagination. He is quite creative. Imagination is seen as a bit frivolous, and creative is, well, a productive thing. We use it for writers and musicians and painters, and we tie creativity to results or problem solving. Probably have the Protestant work ethic to thank for that. What do we link imagination to? Dreaming, wishing, fantasies. They're the same thing. We are doing ourselves a great disservice this way. Imagination is way more powerful, way more important than we give it credit for. Imagination is the first step to transformation. Now, before we get too far down this path, I want to head off a potential misunderstanding, a possible misconception. I am going to talk about the power of imagining today and the power of positive thinking. I am not preaching the prosperity gospel, and I am most certainly not expounding on the secret. I hope not to offend anyone when I say this, but both of those related theologies are bad theologies. I know you don't expect a Unitarian Universalist minister to say something like that. We are supposed to be open-minded, and we are described as welcoming to all beliefs, and that is only half right. We are open-minded. But some traditions, some beliefs do not fit well with our faith tradition, and those theologies do not. They will quickly, if you study them closely, will lead you to very ugly places that blame people for their own misfortunes. And that is inconsistent with our UU principles or our message of love and respect for everybody. So, that's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about imagination and positive thinking. So, I'm not talking about those beliefs. I'm talking about make-believe and the amazing power of our imagination. More and more, scientists are discovering that what we think about makes a huge difference in our moods and our physical health and our short-term and long-term successes, however you may define that very loaded word. Olympic-level athletes use visualization to see themselves performing every part of their sport, the beginning, before the start, the running, the leaping over the bar, the breaking of the record, the clearing the bar, whatever they hope to accomplish, they visualize it. That's another word for imagination. It's solo role-playing, if you will. Therapists and teachers have been using role-playing for decades, usually asking people to imagine themselves in a certain social situation, facing a difficult, stressful encounter, and acting out how they would navigate it. Sometimes this is a solo exercise, and sometimes it's with a partner. How many of you have been asked in a training or workshop to do a little role play? Yeah. How many of you enjoyed that? Oddly enough, considering I am a professional game master, an empath, and an extrovert extraordinaire that absolutely loves role-playing games, I loathe role-playing exercises in workshops. I usually head for the doors at that moment. And the difference is, I'll tell you the reason. Very few of us want to role play ourselves in difficult or challenging situations. We have a word for that already. It's called life. Role playing is way more fun when we can pretend to be someone else doing something amazing somewhere or someone other than here. Turns out that is also rather therapeutic. In the last couple of decades, many social scientists, teachers, psychologists, therapists have started using role-playing games with clients, young and old, to help build communication skills, ego strengthening, creative problem solving, identity exploration, confidence building, adaptive behaviors, anger management, and many other therapeutic outcomes. Role-playing games have become a popular means of helping those on the autism spectrum. Role-playing games have proven amazingly effective with our incarcerated populations in teaching them social skills and survival skills and giving them an emotional outlet and an aggression outlet that actually reduces their recidivism. In schools, prisons, churches, boardrooms, the power of make-believe is being harnessed with games to help people make significant changes in their lives and in their institutions, and then in the wider world. And we do it every day, usually in ways we aren't even trying to or thinking of. How many of you consider yourselves to be worriers? We got a lot of worriers. Scenario thinkers? If I can think of the worst case scenario, I'm prepared, right? My wife, Cheryl, is a trained, certified consulting hypnotist, board certified. Her ministry is one of teaching people how to use their thoughts, their imagination, to help them make improvements and changes in their lives every day. I am exceedingly proud of her. She says, worry is a terrible waste of your imagination. She's taught me a great deal about the power of our beliefs and our thoughts and our make-believe. That's what worry is, you know. Worry is another one of those solo role-playing games. You are casting yourself as a character, you're creating a challenging environment, and then you're imagining the worst possible monster that you could face. It's not as helpful as you think it is. It's a solo game of make-believe in a horror genre. It's us mentally casting ourselves in a disaster flick. Personally, I would rather be a superhero or an adventurer in a heroic story where I succeed. Wouldn't you? Our thoughts lead to feelings, and they in turn lead to actions and reactions. Now, some people think feelings lead to thoughts, and you're only partly right. Let's say your heart rate is up, and your palms are sweaty, and your stomach is a little fluttery. How are you feeling? Oh, someone said anxious. Are you sure you're not excited? Exactly. The body doesn't know the difference. Nervous, fearful, and excited are the same physiologically. So what happens is your body reacts. The body's response is the same, and then your brain looks for context. Oh, my stomach is all fluttery. My heart rate is up. I'm sweating. What's going on? Well, I guess I must be nervous. And then you're nervous. Or it could say, oh, I'm excited. And then you are excited. You get to choose. You get to choose. Let me give you a hypnosis trick that Cheryl taught me. She calls them Jedi mind tricks when she's talking to the kids. I call them mental cantrips. If you're a D&D player, you'll understand. This one is useful to you if you are headed into surgery. Anybody in here who's headed into surgery, I give this to you. Cheryl gives this to you free of charge. Before you go in, before they give you the anesthetic, imagine what favorite food you will eat when you get out of the hospital. Like a burger and fries? Imagine the burger. Imagine the fixings on the burger. Imagine what you're putting on it, the fries next to it. Imagine the taste in your mouth. Imagine it's so hard your mouth waters and your tummy grumbles. When you come out of surgery and you wake up from the anesthetic, the nurse is going to ask you, how do you feel? And if you did the exercises and you respond honestly, you are going to say, I'm famished. And they will respond with surprise and pleasant relief, because most people come out nauseated from the anesthetic. But here's the trick. Your body cannot do hungry and nauseous at the same time. If you tell your body you're hungry, it doesn't get nauseated from the anesthetic. And that's how you wake up. I kid you not, this works almost every time. So try it the next time you're in for surgery. You'll see, it's an amazing trick. Self-talk is powerful. The more positive our self-talk, the less depressed we feel, the more hopeful we are, the more active we become, and the more successes we experience. I'll give you another trick, free of charge. When you're telling somebody, let's see, what's the best way to put this? Winter is coming soon. I hate to break it to you. And at some point in time, it's going to be snowy and icy out there. And someone's going to leave the church, and you're going to look at that person, and you're going to say, don't slip on the steps. My wife and I would both go, because what you have just done is you've planted a bad image in their head. Our brain does not know how to deal with the don't in that sentence. The only way it can negate something is if it thinks of it first and then adds the negation afterwards. So it has to imagine slipping on the steps, and then the don't comes in. But the don't is so much smaller than the ah! And so you've just told the person, slip on the steps, don't do that. Oh, see, I just did it again. It's hard, but it's a good exercise. Instead say, be careful exiting the church. Arrive home safe and sound. This creates a different image in their brain. It creates a different intention in their body. These are the little cantrips. There's another one from my wife. Before she was trained as a hypnotist, but when she was a psychotherapist. She was a psychotherapist for 18 years before she became a hypnotist. We had just moved to Chicago, Illinois from Madison, Wisconsin, so I could attend seminary. It was a huge culture shock for us, and we were lamenting how unfriendly everybody was, and it was really bumming us out. Then one day, Cheryl said, we need to stop this. Let's make note of every friendly person we find. And being the pessimistic person that I am, I said, well, that's not going to take very long. But we started noting friendly people that we encountered in Chicago. And you know what? We found a bunch of them. They were everywhere. Our whole attitude changed, and Chicago wasn't that bad anymore, and seminary wasn't that scary anymore. Now, did our imagination change reality? Maybe, but not in the way you think. Our perception of reality certainly changed, but more importantly, our own attitudes and behavior changed, and that caused other people around us to change. That's the magic of make-believe. By playing pretend, we can change how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And that, my friends, leads to transformation, personal growth, and community growth. We wanted to look for friendly people, so we found friendly people, and people were friendlier. Ta-da! You want to build the beloved community? You're Unitarian Universalists. Are you here to build beloved community? Then start by imagining it. Right now, with you in it. How do you act in that world? Imagine it exists. How do the others in that world act? And play that game every day and see what happens. Don't wake up thinking, I hope it's a beloved community today. Wake up and say, it's a beloved community. today, now, all around me. And then imagine what that's like to be in that world, and imagine what it's like to act in that world, and then go do it. And watch it change. I play spiritual games every day, and I share spiritual games every week on my YouTube channel, and I could use some more subscribers. So if you're looking for me, it's Your Game Minister on YouTube, and every week I will give you a new spiritual game to try. Different ways of being, and these games help us change our way of being and our way of interacting with the world. Playing games has always been a sacred act. Religious rituals often contain aspects of games of make-believe. Weddings. If you don't think weddings is a role-playing game, so instead of growing up and working hard, maybe it's time you remembered to play and made believe a bit more. You want a world that's more just? Imagine it so. Not imagine it becoming so. Imagine it as it is now just. Imagine yourself being justice-making. You want a world that's peaceful? Make believe it is. Play a peaceful part in it. Practice gratitude. Play as if every move matters and every person counts, because they do. Process theology. Remember I mentioned that earlier? Process theology is simply the belief that creation is ongoing and we are co-creators of the world. That, my friends, is the very definition of a role-playing game. Right? Isn't that a role-playing game? Yeah. Life is a role-playing game. Reality is a game of collaborative storytelling, and we are all invited to play. As a matter of fact, we're not even invited, we are required. Shakespeare wrote in his play, As You Like It, all the world's a stage and all of us merely players. Einstein said, God does not play dice with the universe. Maybe they were both right, halfway. All the world's a game and all of us merely players. And maybe the divine doesn't play dice with the universe because the dice are in our hands. The game is ongoing, my friends, and it's your turn. Roll the dice. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What world do you imagine we are all in? Let's play make-believe and make it so. Our closing hymn is When the Spirit Says Do, her favorite song. We are going to sing, it's number 1024, and I believe it has in the order of service what the various verses are. Please rise in body or spirit. Or both.
Got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says
Please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love, and play.
And all the way to the front. Sorry, folks. Technology. I wrote these words and I could just get them off the top of my head, and yet, you know, you put in the time. All right, we'll do it off the top of my head. The world is waiting. It's your turn. You get to be who you want to be in your deepest of hearts. Go, be that person, and change and transform the world. So may it be.